When you resist the present moment, you will continue to suffer. For whatever you resist will continue to persist, and whatever you fight strengthens. Eckhart Tolle. I didn't realize how much unnecessary suffering that my mind and my thought patterns have been unconsciously causing myself until I heard Eckhart said this in one of his videos. In our day-to-day life, we encounter many different kinds of life scenarios and situations. And since most of us are conditioned to label things such as good and bad, pleasant and unpleasant, depending on which type of situation we encounter and how we label or perceive them will determine whether we will be happy or sad, satisfied or frustrated. The challenging part is that most of the time we really do not have full control of the situation, and the people who we deal with, whether at work or at home, and though ideally we prefer only good or pleasant situations, that is really not the experience for most of us, unless we finally reach the point of not having any labels at all, and everything is accepted fully without resistance. Until then, we are at the mercy of our situation. Hence, the essence and importance of this teaching, and why learning to accept and become aligned with whatever situation is presented to you is key in cultivating a more peaceful and enjoyable life experience for you and the people around you. To quote Eckhart Tolle, "Only when you resist what happens are you at the mercy of what happens, and the world will determine your happiness." End quote. For now, let us approach this teaching as new students learning how to let go, becoming aligned with the now, and embrace each and every unfoldment presented to us. As a small business owner and independent service provider, one of the things that can easily turn a good morning into an unpleasant afternoon is a client not showing up. This is a classic example of how you do not have control of situations and people. Now let me invite you and show you how my conditioned mental structure would process this. Irritation and frustration is felt before my mind could even process thoughts such as, well, there goes time I could have given to another person, or what was the person thinking, not canceling ahead of time? How inconsiderate. Of course, the underlying factor here is fear. Fear of not making ends meet, because I didn't grow up in abundance and poverty was all over me. And the idea that I am losing that source of income is enough of a trigger to send fear and worry in me. And rather than showing the obvious emotion, which is fear, you instead show irritation or frustration. According to this spiritual wisdom I read online, quote, "Your triggers are your teachers. Whatever triggers you reveals what you need to heal." End quote. So now you may ask, how does accepting the present moment practice help you in this kind of situation? Well, here's the thing. The resistance and labeling of this situation as something bad and the narrative that goes with it is what causes a lot of unnecessary suffering. When a situation, which happens in the now, which is the present moment, is truly accepted and understood as simply how this moment unfolded, and you intentionally choose to become friendly and become aligned with it, you stop the narrative and the stories playing in your head, and you liberate yourself from having to fight or resist the current situation. And just like that, what is perceived as an unpleasant situation loses its negative power, simply because it is accepted. And though the situation didn't change at all, your approach and perception changed, and so does your whole experience. According to Eckhart Tolle, whatever you accept completely will take you to peace, including the acceptance that you cannot accept, that you are in resistance. End quote. In my case, rather than resisting the situation of a client not showing up, I consciously chose to accept and become aligned with the unfoldment, and even found ways to be grateful for having precious time to relax, sit down, and drink a cup of coffee, and even have time to reflect and contemplate. The acceptance allowed me to turn what could have been an unpleasant situation to simply a client not able to show up. And this also helped me stop the negative narrative, and so I ended up with a different experience. To quote Eckhart, letting go of inner resistance, you often find circumstances change for the better. End quote. It isn't implying that choosing to accept, say, getting a flat tire, being ill, being left by your significant other, or not having enough money for something that you need to buy means you should be acting happy and jolly and that you shouldn't feel sad. The truth is that accepting the situation you are already in can help you deal with things better than having to keep resisting what already is. To quote Eckhart Tolle, what could be more futile, more insane than to create inner resistance to something that already is? End quote. This practice is also different from replacing the negative stories with positive thoughts. It may help at first, but you are still stuck on the mental level. And what the acceptance practice is about is going within and learning how to align and become friendly with the now. You will also find that as you develop this ability, it is less work than having to replace negative with positive thoughts and having to do affirmations. And you will simply find yourself naturally being able to stand in long lines, driving in front of a slow driver, dealing with a difficult coworker with more peace because all of it is accepted. And so it no longer bothers you. But without working very hard using positive thinking, in fact, you experience peace because the mind is simply quiet. Acceptance also doesn't imply that you do not take action, that you allow people to abuse you, or that you stay in a miserable situation. Acceptance of the now actually allows you to come up with solutions to better your situation, because once you have fully become aligned with the now, you no longer have to drain your energy resisting or fighting the situation, and you can use the energy gained in coming up with creative ways to deal with your situation. The wonderful thing I find is that the less effort and the more I align myself in the present moment, the more I am able to make better choices and come up with positive and effective creative solutions. If in case you are feeling the inner resistance with what I'm saying and your mind starts thinking that resisting or refusing is a way for you to cope with unpleasant situations, it is okay to stay with it and allow the resistance. But maybe you can also stay present and observe the resistance without judgment and or having to change it. Just simply watch your inner reactions and accept the resistance as well. It is wonderful to know that we can change our mental structures, which then leads to new behaviors, which can help support us in having a better experience of life. And hopefully, this fresh approach can show you more practical pointers and guidance to handle situations differently, which then will lead to more peaceful experiences. We do not have to keep using the same methods, behaviors, and approach that we have been using and applying, especially the ones that produce suffering to us. And we also do not have to wait a certain number of years to apply this practice, because anyway, the present moment is all there is. And so you can start right this very moment. Wherever you are with your mental, emotional, and spiritual journey, know that most of us, just like you, are still working on a lot of things. But even this can be accepted fully. I strongly feel the truth in this wisdom from Eckhart Tolle, quote, "Life will give you whatever experience is most helpful for the evolution of your consciousness. How do you know this is the experience you need? Because this is the experience you are having at the moment." End quote. May you always remember, especially in challenging and difficult moments, the powerful choice to simply accept what is unfolding. In that space, you will find peace and intuition. I thank you once again for spending your precious moment with me, and peace be with you.